Well, hello and welcome to Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. This is Sandy, and I hope you're having a fabulous day, just fabulous. And tonight's topic is a topic to ponder. Maybe you're about to retire, maybe you're a long ways from retiring, maybe you've already retired. And we're going to talk about the different things to think about if you are going to retire or consider retire, or should you ever retire. And Cora's been in here. I already said hello to her. And Rebecca is in here. Charmaine's just popped in. Yay. Good evening, girls. I hope you are having a fabulous day today. Well, we're talking about retirement. I've always had the viewpoint that you should really never retire. I don't even find that logical. And Troy is here. Hey, Troy, how are you tonight? When we've been going down to Arizona to a retirement village each winter for 5 seasons. And what have I realized? What have I noticed? Because even though Joe's officially retired, I'm not retired. I do get Social Security because I'm way old enough to get that. But the idea of retiring and what I see in a retirement village, I just don't like it. It just reinforced the idea that there's no reason to retire. Oh, Charmaine, thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. It's just wild and crazy, just does whatever it wants to anymore. it's just, I don't even know what to tell you. Though it is getting thinner. That's an getting older kind of thing. And Jennifer is here. Hello, how are ya? So retirement, what do I think about retiring? What I see down in Arizona, because we are in a retirement, 300 people that consider themselves retired or partly retired, is it's boring. Those are people that are bored. I mean, we stay busy. We do all kinds of stuff. And there are activities that when you're a senior, there's lots of activities to do. But the idea of retirement, I thought we should talk about that because there's some young people that retirement might look a long ways away, but it is something to think about, something to ponder for sure. And Jeannie is in here. Hello. Beep, beep. Here's what I got in the mail. I got seeds from you. Thank you very much. I'm totally excited about them. I'm actually going to start, this week I'm starting planting for my garden, other than the things I brought back from South Dakota, from Arizona, which I have a whole bunch of plants that I brought back. I'm totally excited about growing these. These are a squash. They're called red curry squash. And I'm pretty sure I've grown these before, but look at how great these seeds look. Squash seeds should be big and plump, and these are all like that. So I am going to share some of them because there's a lot of them. So thank you very much for that. I have a thank you card that actually I'll mail tomorrow. So thank you very much for that. When you decide that you're going to retire, or you've already quote unquote retired, and things you might not even know. Do you know that when you're retired, you can, and you're on Social Security, say you're making Social Security, forget about maybe retirement or 401k that you might have. Do you know that you can make $23,000 and it doesn't affect your Social Security? So why not have a little side hustle, a little part-time job, a little something. And maybe you've financially worked all that out that you don't have to. Well, then don't stay retired, volunteer. There are so many worthy groups that you can volunteer with. BP says that she's so glad that I got the seeds. And these are organic seeds too. So exciting. And Anne is here too. Hey, Anne girl, how are ya? Oh, I keep pressing the wrong button on my computer because usually I use my my mouse, but I'm over off of my desk. Jennifer says, seeds and books are my favorite things. Can't get citrus trees here, so my friends who are in Arizona right now got a lemon, orange, grapefruit off of their neighbor's tree and mailed the seeds to her. Yay. Now, when I grow up citrus from seeds, remember, it takes a while before they germinate. You know, it could easily take you up to a month or more before they start germinate. Don't lose heart if they don't germinate right away. Ah, a mango seed from Mexico. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Anne says, oh, see, it's not pressing it right. I don't agree with your title. I want to retire with a pina colada. Do you though, Anne? Do you really want to retire? And what does that mean to you when you retire? What I see down in Arizona, the reason why I don't like the word retire is because I find that some people, they just become couch potatoes. They don't really want to do anything. I'll ask them, what you got planned for this week? Oh, not really nothing. Now, some people, I'm sure, can say, I worked my whole life and I don't want to have to do anything. Those are choices that people make. But what I find is the people that stay busy, either they're working a part-time job, they're volunteering, they have a lot of hobbies. Those people live a lot longer. They have a lot more engagement with people. And I think that's the key if you want to, quote unquote, retire. And Charmaine says, my husband had such a horrible time adjusting to retirement. It's been a few years now, and he has not found his groove. I think that happens because people have worked their whole lives. Say they've worked 40, 50 years, some people. And then all of a sudden, you don't got that 9 to 5. You don't have to be clicking at a clock because somebody's telling you what you have to do. I think it's not a bad idea to, quote unquote, retire as a homesteader. You still got lots of things to do. But things to think about. Matthew, get off my lawn. That's right. Old people are yelling at those kids, get off my lawn. I had a neighbor when we were little that they did do that sometimes. But they were very nice older people. But their kids were all grown. And everybody else had kids on the whole street. It probably drove them crazy. Things to consider before you put in that notice so that you can retire. Do you have things set up financially? How are you going to live? How are you going to pay your bills? Because just because you retire, you're still going to have bills. Now, you may have your house paid for, but there's utilities, there's phones, there's insurance, there's food, there's stuff. You got to be, you have to think about those things. What about health benefits? You have to think about that. Now, if you're old enough to get Medicare, and some people buy supplements besides their Medicare, then that's probably covered. But you have to really break those things down because you guys know, I am a list maker. Now, things that I wish I would have done now that I'm quote unquote retired. And maybe I wouldn't have wanted to do that. But things that I see with my parents, they both have their Social Security. They have their pensions because both of them had a job that was with the state or the city. So they had pensions. That can be a great benefit. So if you're younger, you really have to think about those things. Anne says, you're right. Retirement needs careful planning. And we don't want to think about those things. We think it's way off in the distance. You think, I'm 30 years old. I don't have to think about that for 35 years. That's probably not correct. everything keeps going up. And that's right. There's always unexpected things. Your wash machine quits. You need a new car. All these different things you have to think about. BP says, would you be interested in atamana? I don't even know how to pronounce that. I don't know what that is. I harvested the seeds from the fruit I bought from an organic farmer. Yes, I'd be interested in that. I'm going to have to do some research. I love it when I hear a name that I don't have any idea what that seed is. That makes me excited. And Cheryl's here. Hello, how are ya? Jennifer says, I never even heard of. See, I don't know how to pronounce that. See? BP, you've stumped us. We don't know what that is. You're going to have to describe it for us. That's right. So, things to think about. Maybe you've worked a 9-to-5 job, same job the whole time. I think that's a little more rare now. I think people go from job to job. You know, they stay maybe 8 years, 10 years, and then they've switched jobs or they wanted something better. And so they've changed. So the idea of working at the same job for 40 years, most people don't do that. Not that nobody does it, but I think it's a lot less than it used to be. Henry is here. Hello. Jennifer says that Seed Talk is her favorite. I just got my IBG seed swap seeds, and it was like Christmas opening the package. Woo, woo, woo. Thank you. Just whenever it works for you, I will try them. And if it's better for me to grow in Arizona, let me know. Jennifer says, I don't even know what Gran Torino is. See, people are stumping us tonight. Okay, other things about retirement. Now, I think it's much better to be a book reader than it is to be a couch potato. I like to have movies on in the background, like when I'm painting or I'm doing my glass. I like that noise. Some people like music instead. But those are things you have to decide. Jeannie says, I retired in 2020 after 45 years at the hospital pharmacy. You go, girl. That is impressive. Jennifer says that she always has YouTube on when she's doing things. A lot of people do that. I think a lot of people like that background noise. The other thing I do when I'm painting or gardening especially, I put my earbuds in and I listen to a book on Audible or one of the other services because I listen to a few different ones. And I find it that I'm learning. You got to have those brain exercises when you're retiring. Oh, good. Matthew had won. Actually, it could have been his wife because it just says their channel. Received my bird dragonfly from Stump Sandi tonight. I had a question and answer. If you could stump me, if I couldn't answer the garden question, I gave things away. And they were, they're like paper clips, only they're in the shape of birds or dragonflies. I just thought they were just the funnest little thing because I like office supplies. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. I like boxes. I like envelopes. I like notebooks. It's a comfort thing to me. I don't know what the deal is. But when you're thinking about retiring, you can look up how much you're going to make from Social Security. You know, you go through you register, you go through the process. It'll tell you if you retire at 62, if you want to start drawing your Social Security at 62, this is what you will make. If you wait till you're 65, this is what you will make. If you wait till you're 70, this is what you'll make. But remember, after you get to a certain age, you can make whatever you want. But up to that age, and I think it's like, I don't know, 66 and a half, something like that. Right now, you can make $23,000 a year. So you make your Social Security, maybe your pension, if you have that. You have your 401k, and then you can still make some extra money. Some people make more money after they retire than they ever did when they were working because they Work that system. Henry says, I would love to work part-time, but week on, week off, my goal is to have my wife make enough money so I can be a house husband. Yes. That is awesome. You know, if you're married, yeah, you plan those things together. Jennifer says, I love office supplies. I worked at Staples back in the day. I wanted everything. See, I couldn't work at a store like that because I'd be spending my paycheck in the store. It's like, I sometimes think, oh, I'd like a part-time job at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby. But then I realized that I would spend all my money at that store. I wouldn't ever really get a paycheck because I would be spending it because you'd know all the good deals. Oh, so BP is giving us an idea. The fruit is green with white flesh, and it looks like scales on the outside. Oh, I know what that is. Okay, it's a hybrid. Okay. See, I just didn't know the name of it. When you go to retire, some things you have to think about is, how's your health? You know, and people don't want to talk about that, and they don't want to think about that. And it's just like, they just don't want to. You know, it's not real if they don't think about it and they don't talk about it. But seriously, if you have health issues, like say you have medicine that you have to decide, do I need to work longer than I thought so I can have this insurance with from my company? And that can make a big difference on when people retire. You know, some people will work a little bit longer and then they're switching to their Social Security and Medicare, and they get the different supplements. Or some just stay with that company for a long time. Maybe you don't want to retire just because you love what you do. And I think it's bad when people start pressuring you. Oh, you're 65. When are you going to retire? Why do you have to retire? I don't think you have to. There's no reason that, even if you don't want to work that same job, start a small business, work part-time, start a big business, do something that you've always dreamed of doing. Now, in the meantime, you should always do those fun bucket list stuff. You know, if you've planned enough, you should be able to take an occasional vacation. Go someplace that you have always wanted to, by yourself or with, maybe you have a spouse, maybe you have a best friend, and you two have planned going to Ireland, going to Thailand. Think about those things. Now, Anne says, I know people who kept working for their health insurance because of health issues. That is so true. You got to really think about it. My brother has this one medicine, and it is astronomical if you don't have insurance. And so you have to really think on when you're going to retire, when that's okay, when will Medicare pay for that? Do you buy the supplements that go along with Medicare so that it will pay for it? A lot of times when you leave your regular 9-to-5 job, you no longer have dental or eye, because like Medicare doesn't pay for that. You have to buy the different levels to get those things. I just want you to think about it before you go retiring. Jennifer says that property taxes increase. Some people will have the market go up and then the value of their home increases, which ups the property tax. This is totally true. And just like your tags on your car, I thought this year our old little truck would go down. I mean, it's like 20 some years old. No, it increased. And it's like, how can that increase? It's getting older. And you want me to pay more taxes because I had to we got new license plates this year because our county was doing that. Matthew says, I know 93-year-old door greeter, 90-year-old part-time store runners, and even 89-year-old uncle that is still operating his machine shop. people are living longer, still many dying to get in the graveyard. Shocking sometimes. Yeah, we actually know people that, they never really had hobbies. All of a sudden they're retiring, and it's like 6 months later, they're gone. And it's like, that's sad to me. And I don't know if it's because, well, I honestly think that you go when you're supposed to go. But it's something to think about. Don't work so long and not have the joys of life. Some people will spend so much time at work, they're not having those joys. Anne says, right now, people are getting pushed out the door to retire much earlier than 65 by companies wanting to cut costs. Experienced people are more expensive, cheaper to get the younger, or redistribute tasks. Anne is correct with this. I see this. I mean, there are laws that protect people so that they can't actually fire you because you've gotten older. But even counties and states will give you early retirement. They'll give you this package if you retire, because they're paying those firemen, those policemen, those teachers way more than what they're paying those younger ones. I find that's sad. That's sad. BP says that happened to a family member who spent his life as a country doctor. So you got to have plan B. Say you planned on retiring at 65. You plan to have that insurance. You plan that extra 401k going in. You plan that stuff. And all of a sudden, your company's pushing you out. You got to have plan B. What can you do? Have you learned some skills that maybe you could turn into a business? Do some people just want to work part-time because they are bored after they retire. That's right. Residual income. I always think of it, you're supposed to have not all your eggs in one basket. And if you can do that, you can have different income streams. Or I still think it's an income when you garden, so your food bill isn't that high. Maybe you have chickens, so you get your eggs and you get your meat. And that is an income to me. I think it depends on how you look at things to see how much money you have to make. I have so much quilting to do to keep me busy. Sold a few. Ooh, that's exciting. Yeah, find something you love to do, and can you make some income with that? Or maybe the job that you had, you have a lot of knowledge. They're pushing you out. They want the older people to retire. Open your own consulting business. Do classes. See what you can do to take what you have, those skills that you have, so that you're still using your brain, that brain exercise that can really just stimulate you and make your life fuller. Anne says, my dear neighbor passed away suddenly at about 60, just after retiring. He wanted to travel, enjoy life with his wife and grandkids. He did not have the time. And those are things you have to think about. The older you get, the more health issues you can have. So if you wait to completely retire from 40 hours a week at, say, 70, because that's what Social Security is really pushing. Don't retire, don't get your Social Security till you're 70, when they realize that the average male lives to 76. They're not paying them very, very much. Not compared to all the money you put into that Social Security. So you have to really look at the balance of it. You enjoy work for a while, but ask maybe maybe you don't have to work 40 hours a week. Maybe you can work 20 hours. Maybe you can work every other week. Maybe you can work only during the busy times of that job, 6 months out of the year. And the other times you can travel. You can do stuff with your grandkids. You can do a hobby, start a business. You can do all kinds of stuff. Jeannie says, I also play games on the computer to keep my brain working. Anything that can make your brain work. Alzheimer's, dementia is on the rise. You got to make that brain work. You got to feed your body great stuff. Have a garden. Buy from a farmer's market if you don't want to have a garden. And watch what you eat. How much sugar are you eating today? Now, it's very easy to say, oh, I don't really eat that much sugar. I don't drink those many sodas. Have a little notebook for a week and just see how much you actually do. And you might be totally surprised. Now, I love playing games. I don't play them on the computer, but I love playing games. It can be board games. It can be card games. I just love that. I find it very stimulating. I like playing backgammon. And even if your spouse doesn't like to do that, find somebody who does. Open your world and see what you can do. When you go to retire, how much money you got in your bank? I know you may not want to share that with anybody, but does it work with, say, your 401k? How much can you draw? How much you want to draw out of that? Do you make enough money so you don't have to draw any out unless there's some kind of thing you want to do, or you want to buy a new car? Just before Joe retired, well, actually 3 years before Joe retired, we leased our truck that we have right now. We leased it because it had a really good deal on leasing it, because most leases just go back to the dealership. We did it so that we had 2 other vehicles at the time, so we never went over our 10,000 miles per year. And then we saved and saved and saved and saved and saved. Rudy, be careful, otherwise I have to put you in timeout. It's nice to see you, though. So when Joe retired, they were all excited that we were going to turn that truck in. And we said, we never said we were going to turn that truck in. We're just going to pay for it. And so we have this fabulous truck that now we have had for, I think almost 8 years we've had that truck. And it has been a great vehicle. It's Joe's very first brand new vehicle ever. Not my first, but Joe's very first brand new one. And, just a second. I had to time out that Rudy. Sorry, Rudy. Now, Jeannie says, my job got so mentally stressed, I was ready to retire. I retired at 65, my full age for my age group. Those are things to think about too. If that job is so stressful for you, why not take that retirement? You're old enough to have your Social Security too. And then if Jeannie gets bored, she can always do other things too. But I know a few people, sorry, I'm going to sneeze, that they're widows down in Arizona. And they're poor as church mice, seriously poor as church mice. Now, Arizona does have a really great program, and there could be some other states. So if you're a widow or a widower, this may work for you. You'll have to check your state out. They have a program. You have to fill out paperwork, but your house taxes are so reduced. It's like 90% it's reduced in Arizona. So that helps those people that I know down there. Because if your property taxes keep going up, sometimes elderly people can't afford to live in their house anymore that they've had for 40 years, which is probably paid for. But now all of a sudden, because house values have exploded, they can't stay in their house. So look for those programs. If you're a veteran, you can get a reduction in almost every single state on your property taxes For us, it saves us about $300 a year. Now, that may not seem a lot, but take advantage of all those things that are seniors. You go out to dinner, what kind of senior discount? If you were in the military, what kind of discount can you have? You go to the movies, you get a discount because you're seniors. There's a lot of places that once you get some places over 55, other places at 65. So there's things you got to do. Jennifer says, the kids need to start a home business young. Seed saving is a good starter business, plus the paper route or farm stand. That's true. If you can ingrain children to have a good work ethic, they usually keep that their whole life. You know, when I look at my kids, I got to tell you, I'm just a proud mama. Seriously, all 5 of my kids and Joe's 2 kids have such strong work ethics. It's just amazing. Jennifer says, my property tax for 13 acres is $370 a year. I qualify for low income property tax credit of $300 a year. I never even knew there was such a thing. I pay less than $100 a year property tax. That is amazing. Seriously amazing. Anne says, learn some computer skills, start a YouTube channel, any kind of little things that you can do. Charmaine says, my dad used to say he paid more monthly in taxes per month than he did for payments. And that it's a sad thing when we have to look at that, because prices have so much increased of homes, and then taxes on your property, which, I mean, every once in a while you hear a senator or congressman saying that they're going to do a bill, it's going to go through, and if you're a senior, you don't have to pay property taxes anymore. I will believe that when I see it. Seriously, you can say a lot of things, but to get that passed through Congress, through the Senate, and have a president sign it, because it's a lot of income that comes into your city, your county, or state. So I don't know. I would like that to happen, but I don't know. Insurance companies, especially in hurricane-prone regions, insurance companies don't want to write home policies. Not renewing seniors with old homes, disappointing. There is a whole bunch of companies in Arizona and California that have left those 2 states. So we had to find different house insurance down there. And last year it was fine. It was about the same price, just a little bit more. But this year it has almost doubled. So I will be looking for a different insurance company. But when you have older homes, sometimes it's a little more difficult, which I don't understand why that is, but that's what they're doing. They don't want to insure you. And I find that a sad state of affairs, you know? And it's easier for a company to say, oh, we're just leaving the state, and they can just cancel everything. It's tough on seniors. It's tough on anybody. And so I hope maybe you just, and the people that watch this later, because there's always way more people that watch it later. If you haven't retired, if you're about to retire, if you've already retired, think about some of the stuff that we talked about tonight. Make a plan. Sometimes if you put the stuff down in paper, these are all my bills, these are all my incomes, these are things that are going to happen in 5 years after I retire, or 10 years. Will you need a new car? Will you have medical expenses that you may not think about right now? So I just hope it makes it so that you think about things. BP says, same happening in California if one is living in fire-prone areas. But then again, we pay extra for fire coverage. That's true. I don't like property taxes, but I do like fire departments, roads, sidewalks, and that's true. It's a balance. You got to pay taxes. You know, when I hear people go, we don't need to be paying taxes. Yeah, you do. You know, you want those roads, and you want fire departments and police departments and all this stuff. It's a balance. Ann, thanks so much. But I hope you guys think of it. And Angie's here. Thanks for the subject. It's good for people to think about it. Because if you can start planning, the younger you are, the more when you get 65, 70 years old, 80 years old, you will appreciate all that extra work you did when you were younger. I prepared and got a new car 2 years prior, and my house paid off before I retired. If you can not have a house payment, it makes a huge, huge difference. Or if you can somehow, you take part of your 401k and you pay your house off, you're losing that part of that 401k. But really, when you don't have a house payment and all you're doing is paying taxes on it, it's still better than having to pay both at the same time. This is true too. And we didn't say anything about this. Funeral costs. Think about how you're going to do that so that maybe you have a spouse that you leave behind. Are they going to be okay? You just have to be careful so that everything balances out. And there's ways to save money for funeral costs, or you can pay for them beforehand. There's a lot of things to think about it. Are you going to be buried? Are you going to be cremated? Are you going to, like me? I'm donating I'm going to be cadaver. I have the paperwork because somebody's got to do it, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to be in this body anymore, so I'm okay with that. I plan on living a long time, so those medical students are going to have an old woman when they're going through their studies. That's true. Saves your children from going to debt. If you haven't prepared for a funeral, if they don't have and you haven't shared that with your children, you have to share it with them. I know it's uncomfortable. They feel weird. They don't want to talk about it. But you got to let them know, these are my life insurance policies. These are my funeral arrangements. Because all of a sudden something happens to you, and your kids may not be prepared to have those expenses. But everybody, I'm going to let you go. It's kind of a sad thing to leave on the end. But have a great week. I've been doing some shorts. I have a couple long videos to do, but I am mostly painting and doing fused glass because I am in 2 big shows that I have to have. The biggest one, I have all this stuff done by Sunday. And the other one, actually, I have to have Tuesday or Wednesday. But I mostly have that painting done. Everybody, have a great night. Thank you so much for stopping in. But think about it. And I will see you.